Hello and welcome to IGN Overclocked, episode 20. My name is Mitch Dyer. This is your PC show. Joining me, as always, Dan Stapleton.
Yes, sir.
I figured, why not talk about XCOM for another week? No, I'm just kidding. We're going to take a break from XCOM for the first time, and God, it feels like 2 months. But next week, more XCOM.
Much more.
Much more XCOM. I'm very excited.
It's out next Friday.
Yes, Marty Sleva,
Episode 20.
I think.
Old enough to get married. The legal age of marital
I don't even have a
consent
response to
in
this.
America
Normally,
is 20.
I just roll with whatever dumb garbage comes out of you.
It's been a very busy
Weird
day,
face.
Mitch. It's been a real busy day.
It's been a day.
It's been a day where you start making up rules.
Yeah. So no XCOM this week, but we got a lot of VR stuff because I spent yesterday at an all-day event with Valve playing with the Vive. I played 12 video games in about 6 hours, and basically all of them were incredible. I'm trying to think of
One made you real dizzy.
One made me, oh man. Ironically, it was Elite Dangerous, which is the only game I played at the entire event where I was sitting.
Yeah.
Everything else is like you're standing, you're walking, you got hands, you got whatever. But like sitting in Elite in a cockpit with weird gravity and weird orbital inertia stuff, I don't know, man. Like it was
never
the
gonna go to
only time
space.
I've ever been wrecked by VR.
I mean,
Never
I
going to space.
have to wonder if that has to do with something wrong with the optics, just with your head shape or something like that. Just,
Yeah, or even like the frame rate,
Yeah.
like the refresh or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's possible the frame rate dipped on that and that caused you problems.
Yeah, but it's one of those games that's meant to sort of be like cool stuff in VR. Like you have a boost on your buggy and you do a barrel roll.
No,
And
I've played a bunch of that in with the DK2,
With Oculus,
the Oculus DK2 Developer Kit 2.
Yes.
And I had no problems. Although I'm pretty resistant to motion sickness in general.
I am too. That's why I was surprised. Like I sat down, I was like, I need a ginger tea. Like this will,
I need a ginger
this will
tea.
relax my stomach.
If you pre-order the Vive, you actually get a dozen packets of ginger tea.
Perfect.
Did
Very
they have
reassuring.
Did they have at the demo event? Did they have like stuff on hand for like Dramamine?
Oh yeah,
and
so
stuff?
I tweeted like, oh man, that demo wrecked me, and I like in 2 minutes, somebody from Valve who I didn't know was like, Mitch, are you okay? I saw that you weren't feeling well. We have ginger tea. There's ginger ale over there. We got little ginger sugar cubes for your coffee.
Why? What is ginger like the miracle cure? For
I guess so.
It is good for
dementia?
nausea, yeah. Not dementia.
But dementia.
Dementia.
I don't.
You know why I said that? Mitch knows exactly why I said that.
Because you're becoming demented.
Because
No,
he's
because
losing
I
it.
can't say why I said it, but I said it for a reason.
He's saying it because embargoes. Yeah, but that's the only time I've ever felt motion sickness in VR. But the rest of the time, I was feeling real good because Vive is awesome. Like it just continues to be the coolest thing in the world.
There's more than ginger in that tea.
Oh man, what have you've used Vive?
Yeah, I've used Vive a bunch. And it's,
What have you played? Like you've done like the tech demo stuff. Have you played a game yet?
Yeah. I mean, in theory, I played. I did the Valve made demos for Portal 2 and for Dota.
Yeah.
Which were cool, sort of space, like exploring a space kind of thing. I played the Tilt Brush
Yes.
Art
Oh my
Center,
God, it's so good.
which I think is incredible. And then I played the game where you Incredible Machine, where you have to build the things. Is that what it's called?
Fantastic Contraption.
That's just Incredible
It's the
Machine.
Incredible Machine in
Incredible Machine
VR.
is the Chinese knockoff of Fantastic.
I think Incredible Machine was like the
original?
early
The OG?
'90s PC
game? Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit?
puzzle game.
Mac and
Dan, I
Yeah.
think someone's on your computer because you're editing the show notes right now. I'm looking at it. Dan's Google Doc thing is moving around. You're fine now. Anyway.
Yeah, and I also played the one where you land planes, air traffic control.
Oh,
You wrote about that one yesterday.
yep. And I keep forgetting the name, and I feel real bad.
Planes, please.
Planes, please. No, it's fun. It's the least remarkable of the games I played in VR, but it's also the most different. Like most other games, I'm gonna try to find this, but most of the games I played were first person. Usually had some element of combat, but it was very much about being a person. And this is parts of that. Like you can zoom in on these ships, and then you can become a little firefighter man. You can hose down an airplane that's on fire. But most of the time, it's like a god game where you're like Godzilla size in the ocean and walking around, and you're like, I'm gonna use my finger to drag this plane's flight path over here. I'm gonna send guys over here to like shoot down drones.
Yeah.
So we should, just to be clear, we should throw out there that Vive is a little different from Oculus in that it tracks not just your head position, but the position of your entire body walking around a space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm walking around. I'm holding two controllers. It's tracking my face
It has these
movements.
two light sensors. Is that what they
Yeah,
are?
they're called lighthouse beacons.
Lighthouse beacons.
And they have basically a strobe laser on them that it uses to track position in the room.
Final Approach is the name
Final
of the
approach,
plane.
yeah. And so you put two of those lighthouse beacons up in like two various corners of a room. room the size of is the space like 10 by 10, a little more, a little less.
Whatever the size of this room is probably what I used
15,
yesterday.
15 by 15.
10 by 10,
Yeah.
15 by 15.
And so yeah, you are walking around a 3D space and sort of exploring it. And when we were playing what was the ship game called again?
Final Approach.
Final Approach. So yeah, you are like when you're standing up, you are the size of like a Godzilla kaiju kind of thing in a city. But if you like get down on your knees, you're sort of ground level with buildings, and so it's this really cool sense of like size and depth and everything. That's almost like getting right into like a diorama, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. And they've added new systems as you go deeper into it now. It's like because this is a port of a mobile game, I think. But now they've added more stuff where it's like, okay, you can send a chopper over there to get engineers because those engineers can power a generator that you would otherwise need to go manually do. So you can like go send the chopper over there, move them over there. You can go over to the guns and start shooting down stuff. And it's like you just look and pull triggers, and that's how you shoot stuff down. And there's different guns. And
So to be clear, you don't literally have a kaiju-sized
No.
body.
You are not like if you step on something, it
not a
doesn't get
monster.
destroyed. It's
No,
just your point of
that's
view.
your perspective.
You're a floating head.
You're floating head.
Yeah.
And floating hands, I guess. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Terrifying.
Yeah, the game was cool, but it's the one where I'm like the least excited to play it again. Like it's cool for sure, but it's just it's one of those like not for me kind of thing.
So reading your write-ups on them, it seems like the ones that were super exciting were more of the first-person like action puzzly games.
Yeah, man. Like anything with combat really resonated with me. Like I liked Audio Shield a whole lot, even though I didn't have that. Like it's basically this is the next game from the guys who made Audio Surf. It's very much the same idea where it's about matching beats, but you're doing it in first person. It's more physical, and the idea is you hold the controllers and you have the representation is like a giant shield going down your forearm, and they're different colors, and as different colored orbs fly toward you, you block them with those colors. And it's really cool, and it has that kind of physicality to it that you don't get from Audio Surf or you don't get from other things. And it just feels cool to be like, I'm blocking these things, big sparks are flying, my favorite music is playing because I'm using my playlist. That stuff is cool.
Yeah.
But man, it was like anytime I was holding a gun, it felt weirdly powerful in a way that like most
his neighbor
shooters
said
do not.
he was such a quiet boy.
Yes, for real, dude. And it's funny. We were talking about this because at the end of the event, it was like a bunch of press and devs just hanging out, and the conversations were all about like our favorite games. And the thing that people kept coming back to is like I had a physical primal reaction to a threat in a game, like in Arizona Sunshine, which is a decent shooter, pretty cool horror game that's more about like resource management than it is actually being a spooky game because it takes place in broad daylight. So you're managing holding clips and putting them on your ammo belt, which you can put anywhere on your body. And you can just shove ammo into your chest if that's where it is, and then you use that to reload your guns. But if you have two guns, then you have a harder time doing it. And if you run out of ammo, you need to change a gun. It's all about that kind of chaotic Resident Evil style inconvenience to make horror.
And sort of zombies after you or like monsters?
Yeah, and it's like weird undead dudes sprinting at you. And the first time that I was like, oh, I'll take care of these guys over here, bang, bang, bang. And I was getting hit from behind, and I was like, what is that? And I turned around with no bullets, and there was something just screaming in my face. Like I actually recoiled and jumped.
Well,
It's
I mean,
terrifying.
this is the modern equivalent of when you hear about like people running away from the movie theater when they saw a train.
Yeah, when a
driving
train
at
was
them.
coming towards the camera.
Yeah, and it's just
Oh man, I've never heard that. That's really good.
Well, it's the new version of that.
Yeah.
Because but much more real because the whole goal of these virtual reality things is they talk about presence, which is actually fooling your brain into thinking that you're somewhere you are not.
And it's very convincing in Vive, more so than I think in Oculus, because you have this really huge space that you can, like, in your real life you're in a very tiny room.
Yep.
But the illusion is so convincing because of your ability to navigate it and your ability to walk around.
It's really
and
easy
interact.
to forget where you are.
Big time.
Oh,
Like-
it's so easy.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I put on an Oculus, which John Carmack's crappy duct taped together prototype at E3, I basically forgot where I was in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I took it off. I'm like, I'm still in this little room.
How did I get
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's funny, that whole presence thing too. In tricking your brain at CES, Alana and I played, and she was doing one of the. It was like a deep sea. It was just sort of like the experience thing, and you're on the top of a ship that's at like the bottom of the ocean. You're sort of just walking around the deck of this submerged ship, and like you can walk to the edge and sort of look over it. And she like kept like tiptoeing and then looking,
like as though you're gonna fall.
And I'm like, you can keep walking. She's like, well, I don't wanna.
Did you
I'm
shove
like,
her?
you know what room you're in?
No, that's why the Portal demo, and there was something else in I can't remember what demo I played at Valve, but it was like the floor crumbled out from beneath me,
and
I freaked out.
And he's like, obviously, you're fine, and that you're still just in a dumb room with dumb carpet. But man, you're kind of spooked.
When stuff like that happens in like Call of Duty, right? Like you're climbing a mountain and something like your foot, the thing beneath you crumbles out, and you get that like, I used the cliff hook. Axe
cliff
to like
hook.
save myself, like the old cliff hook. Like that's a cool moment, but it's not a scary one. Whereas if that were to happen in VR, it would be horrifying.
Yeah.
Yep.
That kind of stuff is great because it's, and I think that's what makes it so satisfying to play a shooter, because you have usually dual wielding because it feels really badass, and you use your actual body to move out of the way of incoming fire, to hide behind cover, to protect yourself. And in that regard, it feels really good to, if you're in a multiplayer game, like Hover Junkers is really cool. It's like everyone has a skiff, and they're all just like running around this, like on their hovercrafts, navigating this big Mad Max wasteland. And they've all got like crappy pistols and big, gigantic, hilarious Borderlands shotguns. And they're trying to drive their cars around and kill each other. But all the while, you're putting up different pieces of cover, getting attacked from all sides. And you can do co-op. So like Marty could be driving and building while I'm like fending off incoming attackers. And that is really cool because when you get a kill, it's like I was hiding behind cover and I could hear the bullets hitting the metal, and it felt really good to dodge those, because when I turned around the corner and I got that shot, I felt like I had a better shot than that guy. I felt like I was smarter about cover. I felt like he was out of position. It feels so much better than your average cover-based shooter to have that experience.
Yeah.
Because of how convinced you are that it's real.
Yeah. A little bit of that paintball sensation in the first
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, totally.
Like how active was it? Like, were you getting tired? I mean, obviously you were doing 12 demos back to back to back.
Sure. I mean, I was tired at the end of the day, but it was we did 15-minute demos, so it wasn't enough time to get tired. Like I still felt like by the time I was done with my Hover Junkers demo, I was really disappointed because I felt like, oh, that was like the warm up before the match actually started.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to keep playing more. I think the most physically active I was when I was playing Space Pirate Trainer.
Okay.
And it's the most simple mechanical game they had there. It's literally, okay, you have two guns, and there are flying droids that are attacking you, and all you have to do is shoot them to protect the ship behind you. Don't ever get shot. And they were like, oh, and if you reach behind you and pull your trigger, you can pull out a big shield, and it deflects lasers that are coming at you. So I played it, to begin with, really, really passive. And I would use the like burst fire pistol to shoot at the enemies, and use the shield to defend myself against fire. And when I kept dying, they were like, hey, you can like move, right?
Yeah.
And like it clicked, like, oh, I am thinking about this game wrong. Right. And what I ended up doing was I left the shield, I went full offense, and I realized I could change the fire mode, so I changed both my pistols to like a charged laser beam thing. So it's like hold it for a second and then shoot a beam, and it's a one-hit kill every time, no matter what. And it feels so cool to literally like crouch down, lean to the side to dodge whatever incoming fire is happening, and then shoot a charged, super precise shot and land it without like looking down the sights. Like that feeling is unbelievable, and it's unlike anything I've ever felt in a game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, there's a lot of discussion of like, is there a killer app for VR that's really going to sell these things? And at this point, I think the novelty alone is the killer app.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not,
a really good point.
Yeah, it's not that there's necessarily going to be a game that like everyone must play, but I think they're just collectively so many things that just no one has ever seen before. It's like, video games came along for the first time. Everyone's like, holy crap, I've never seen anything like this. I got to try it, even though the games aren't very good.
Yeah.
Sure.
And like eventually, like when you get, it'll be a few years or a year or two at least, where we're just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, what makes a good VR game.
Yeah.
And eventually the wheat will separate from the chaff, and you'll have the killer apps that emerge from that.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of 7-8 years ago when the Wii came out, and the thing was Wii Sports that everyone played, and Wii Sports was
life changing.
It was life changing, and you look back and you're like, well, it's a pretty simple game, but it just happened to be like, hey, here's this new way to interact with your toy, and here's like a couple basic ways to do that, and those basic things were enough.
Yep. It sold, and Wii U's were cheap. Much cheaper than one of these things.
$250 you could get the console, or $300 or whatever,
and a PC to run it.
Yeah.
So it's not quite the same thing. It's not like people can't just say it's like, oh, that's
not an impulse buy at like Walmart.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the Gear VR is for. If you've got a Samsung phone, that's $100 and you can get some basic VR. But it will pale in comparison to having like motion tracking. Motion tracking alone is just so much of a difference.
Yeah.
for it to know, even with the Oculus, which doesn't have a full room of movability or tracking you around a room. It's just such a big deal to know where your head is in space, so you can move to the side. Like I played Super Hot.
Yeah.
I think it was the
Space Power Trainer is very similar to that. Like you get that brief moment of slow mo to move out of the way.
Yep. But just being able to move my head, like there were like bullets coming at me, and I just physically moved down in my chair and ducked out of the way of the thing, and like that alone is just such a novel experience.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that makes it's interesting because most of the games I played at the Vive showcase, of all 12 of them, all of them are really interesting and really exciting and really cool in their own way, but they are very primitive. They're very clearly a round one kind of like experimentation with VR. That's not to disparage them in any way. It's just this is people figuring it out.
Oh yeah.
And the next wave is going to be even better. But the most sophisticated game I played, and the one that I would like, if I get a Vive, the one that is like the killer app for me is Budget Cuts, because it is so much of a more involved action game than anything else I played. Everything else was like stand in place, small area. Sometimes you can explore a big space like the Gallery, Call of the Starseed. This episodic adventure game is really cool, but it's like navigate a world, look at stuff, explore. It's very it's very Mitch and Marty, and not really much a lot to do.
Right.
Like there's no interactions with anything other than like story stuff. But Budget Cuts is this first-person stealth game about infiltration and instant kills, and it's very tense and very hard and very cool. And it sort of combines my favorite things about Dishonored with Portal, where you have this you have two modes basically, and you can set one to each hand. And I used my feet on my left hand and my hands on my right. So with my left hand, I would shoot a little ball down a hallway, and then if I used the grip buttons, I could teleport right to that spot.
Okay.
So you shoot a ball.
So it's like blinking and.
Yeah, very much so. But before you blink, you can like hold it up like a watch, and you can use it to preview where you're going to go. And if someone's coming at you, and it's like a robot with a gun that's terrifying, and if it hits you, it kills you. They won't see you through the portal, so you can wait for them to pass and then blink, and now you're behind them. And once you're behind them, you have a pretty decent amount of space to move, and you have an inventory that you can pop open where it's like, okay, I have a crossbow. If I've cracked that safe because I was rooting around drawers and I found the key for the safe and I found the crossbow. Or you can just pick up knives and stuff around the room, and you can like pop open a menu and you just shove them into like a floating inventory.
Yeah.
And it's really satisfying to just walk up to a pile of knives, open an inventory in one hand, and just shovel them in. It's like weirdly, like there's just the tactility of shoveling something into another thing. But then to like actually fight guys in this game, I would use throwing knives, and it's like I'm terrible with them because you hold the trigger to grip it and then you let go when you want to fire it, and it's like an actual physical momentum based thing.
You just keep hitting them with the hilt.
And like when I would fly by and they'd be like, "What?" Or I'd go for the head and I'd get him in the leg, and it's like, he's dead anyway. I don't care. But it's when you combine.
That was his vital leg.
Yeah, but it's when you combine all of this stuff, and once you really get a rhythm going, it feels so cool to understand. Like, okay, I'm gonna blink across this ledge, and before I even like have to look at where I'm going, I'm gonna warp. I'm gonna rip a vent off. I'm gonna shoot another ball through. I'm gonna teleport in there. I'm gonna pick up the knives on that counter. I'm gonna turn without even looking. I'm just gonna throw a knife and hit a robot coming through the door because I know the patrol timing.
Robot tape knives.
You heard it here first, folks.
Like that kind of momentum, that kind of rhythm in that game is really cool and satisfying in the same way it is to like, okay, you came flying out of one portal and shot another, and now you went into that one and you came out somewhere else. Like, it just all feels so cool.
Yes, those blinking, the active teleporting is also how they get around the limitations of the small space.
Yes.
Right? So it feels like you're navigating a much bigger space, even though you're still in that 10x10 room.
Yeah, and it's supernatural enough that you're like, oh, I'm gonna like fire it all the way across the room and blink there, and I'm gonna shoot it down a hallway, or I'm gonna shoot it up into the ceiling where there's a hole in the rafters.
So are you literally? There's no like analog stick. You control
your
position by walking.
So you're using two handheld remotes, like Wii remotes.
Yeah, I know the remotes.
Okay, cool. So you pull the trigger to shoot and it's represented by two guns basically. Like you have a hover thing that like uses gravity to pull a vent off.
But there is no button you push to walk forward.
Correct.
You
physically
a
move
step
your
is a
legs.
step.
Yes. And you are confined to a boxed area that is created when you shoot your thing and you blink to it. You now have a limited space to move around
Because does it know your?
because it knows the room you're in.
Yeah. Okay. That's so. My worry was that I would get too close to the edge of a room, like literally physically close to the wall.
Yeah.
And then I would blink somewhere, but be facing another direction. And when in the game I'd try to take a step forward, I'd just hit the wall.
No, it accounts for that.
Okay.
And it knows to direct you away from walls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
when
the
you get-
entire game it's talking to Chaperone. Like
Yeah.
Lighthouse is talking to Chaperone.
So
which is the,
talk a little bit about that.
So Chaperone is basically once you get all of Vive set up, Chaperone is this holographic grid that appears when you get like within 1 foot of your actual real life wall while in the headset.
The game almost like turns into a simulation.
It's like, hey, there's a grid right in front of you. This is where your actual wall is.
You have
Be
the holodeck
careful.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's when you know, oh, I'm actually by this wall. I'm going to back up and I can turn around.
Yeah.
Now I have my sense of space again.
So
And
one of
it's
the-
super helpful and super clear.
One of the other cool things you can do with Chaperone, which we did when we played at CES, is that it has a small forward-facing camera, and you're able to toggle and just view through that camera. And so you're viewing the actual world around you, and it has this like very weird blue look to it. But it's almost like if you're playing the game and someone comes in the room, you can toggle to that and look at them, and you're like, oh, I can tell that's Blue Dan
Oh,
from
Blue
the
Dan.
hit film Avatar. And so it's one of those. And then they're also saying like you can toggle to that and then walk over and grab your water and take a sip and then toggle back into the game, which I find interesting because one of the things about VR that scares me is the complete like separation of reality.
Yep.
And like is my house on fire? Did someone murder my dog?
Yeah, and that's sort of there are a few major concerns I have about VR and Vive,
Is
especially
dog murder one of them?
because when you sadly it is not.
Oh.
When you
That's
sadly.
that's
That's
happily.
happily. When you're in Oculus, you have the headset on, you're in a chair, you're doing your thing, and the only time you move, you're going to take that headset off.
Yeah.
But with Vive, it's like you're actively walking around a room, and I really wonder how necessary it's going to be because I've never had a demo without somebody being there to be like,
Totally.
I'm going to put your headphones on now. Like
A
very
spotter.
Yeah, somebody is spotting you, and they're very like openly communicative about what they're going to do. So I wonder, like, once we have one in the office, am I going to need Marty there to be like, all right, come to put the headphones on. Okay, I'm going to watch you play the game because you need someone
Yeah.
here to spot you. in
Yeah,
case
and
something
even once
goes
you have the
wrong.
headphones on, the spotter would have a microphone and sort of be your like
Yep.
your CO. Yeah.
But the problem became in most of my demos, like probably half, I would say, I would get tangled up in the cord because basically everything runs to the back of the helmet,
Yeah.
runs through the back of the
It's
helmet.
like an umbilical cord.
Yeah, and it was
Like the hit film Avatar.
damn it, Marty. I kept thinking like somebody needs to make a Predator game to make that feel valuable because you got this big dumb dread behind you.
And it makes me think of having just played Legacy of the Void.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
the
totally.
Protoss.
Protoss.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have the nerve whatever.
But it's a really honestly huge issue. And not to say like it makes Vive unusable. It's obviously I think it's incredible and I can't wait to use it. But it's just so inconvenient to have this like long, heavy thing weighing you down, pulling your head down, and it's all these cables connecting to audio and video into the computer and into your head.
Does
and
it
as you're
connect to
walking
a power socket as well?
I have
Like
no
I imagine
idea.
this has to be
Probably,
powered
yeah.
like,
No,
through the wall.
No, I mean it's the same exact.
Probably
It's
just from power supply.
it's the same exact thing as the Oculus as far as what goes on your head.
Yeah.
So that's it's just going to be a bunch of USB connections.
But I'm almost worried that like if you step on something, is it just all gonna get unplugged? Is
Right,
it
and
gonna knock
that's
your
the
PC
thing,
over or pull
is-
your PC over?
I would get tangled and I would trip and they'd be like, "Oh, hang on, lift your right leg," and they'd like untangle me. And if I don't have that person, like, am I gonna die? Am I gonna be okay? And I kept unplugging the audio. I don't know where it was or like which cable it was because I couldn't see. But
Yeah, I want to
more
know.
than 3-4 times I would step on the cable and it would just pop out of my ear.
I want to
like,
know if
pop
they
out from
have
behind my ear.
if they have like a MagSafe release on that
Right.
thing to prevent you from just destroying your USB ports.
Yeah.
It'd be
That-
nice.
Yeah, like I actually on my PC at home, like 2 of my USB ports on the front are destroyed because just not even from something like this, but just from having stuff plugged in there and it gets bumped and it just
Right.
like, rips.
You get
the-
out of your chair and you rip your headphones out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it was the headphones actually.
Funny.
But yeah, like so I'd be very worried about tripping over those cords and having it rip something apart. And that's like with the wired Xbox controllers. They've got those little cables
The little
safe release.
separator thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Safe release cables, because people trip over them and destroy the USB ports on their
Yeah.
Xboxes or their PCs.
Yeah.
So like I hope they have something like that.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
too.
There's like, as I completely agree with you, Mitch. To where Vive's been the most impressive VR I've used Oculus and I've used PSVR, but Vive's been the most impressive. But it's also the least
practical.
likely for me to ever have in my home because
Yep.
I do not. I have a
You don't have the
single bedroom
space.
in a 5-bedroom place in San Francisco, and it's not very big, and it has a bed and
Right.
And so I'm like, well, I can never use this at home. Like, I'm super stoked to have one set up here in our
Yeah.
demo room where we can like move everything to the corners and
Yep.
hopefully not die.
And
if
people are
anything
probably
breaks,
going
I
to
don't
want to
care 'cause
spot
it's not
you and
mine.
look out for you and stuff because they
Yeah.
want to see you like in get like I want to.
It's going to be hilarious, all the
Yes.
things they're going to
yeah.
do to you while you're in there.
I have a feeling we're all going to be playing, and then we're just going to open the curtains on that room, so everyone's just going to stare in like we're chimps in a zoo.
You're gonna take it off and realize that somebody has removed your pants while you weren't paying attention.
Oh, no pants.
Happened to me at the event.
That's why
Crazy.
That's why I start. That's why I start games with no pants. I'm gonna take it off and someone
You're
put
just thinking
pants
ahead.
on me.
I was telling people at the event, a couple devs, like we were just spitballing, like, man, VR is so cool. Wouldn't it be cool if, like, I want a game that is literally, I put on a headset and I just pet a dog. Like that's all I need from VR is just like,
I mean-
I had a bad day. I want to go home and like hang out with my therapy VR dog.
Along those lines, you were talking about that God game. I want Black and White 3
That'd be
in
awesome.
VR.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know if you heard
I-
your mom. You were tired.
that actually is part of what made me think of that. But, no, I remember talking to Peter Molyneux about like Kinect. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, the one Kinect game I want to play is Black and White. I
Yeah.
want to like wave my hands around and have magic happen.
Yeah.
But like this would be 100 times better.
Yeah, imagine how cool it would be to just have a space that you could like terraform, and like you hold in one of the triggers, and you could just like dig into a
just
mountain,
scoop it.
and, like scooping out a mountain.
Or just have it. Just the idea of looking down at a world and seeing a bunch of little villagers
Yeah.
going about their day and be able to reach down and
Yeah.
pluck one and
Pluck one,
toss
yeah.
them into the sea.
Yeah, that is probably the most satisfying thing in Vive is like you have the grips and the triggers, so you can use your hands to like close on your palms or your fingers to like pinch stuff. And there's something really amazing about, and everybody did this. Everyone was talking about it at the end of the day. There's so many like bottles and breakable things in every
You're just
demo
like
right now.
knocking them out.
Yeah, and everyone's just like, I'm trying to find a thing, and everyone's like, nope, nope, nope. Grab the thing, throw it
Yeah.
behind you. Like you don't care about anything. You're super reckless. It's in budget cuts
Yeah.
that punishes me because I'm just recklessly like, all right, I'm gonna grab this grate, I'm gonna throw it behind me, and it like alerts a guard, and he comes around the corner. I'm like, I didn't even think
I
about
like
that.
that you treat everything like it's a Looney Tunes cartoon almost, where it's
Basically,
like,
yeah,
just, like,
you're just like
fast motion throwing
shoveling
everything out
through
of
a drawer, and everything's going behind you.
I hope they make a Kylo Ren tantrum simulator.
I would play that.
But yeah, I guess that, so but the limitation again is the cord, right? So
Yes.
I think that's just going to be an inherent problem until somebody solves how to wirelessly transfer 90 frames a second video at the crazy resolution they've got with no latency, which is going to be a long time. Like that's not going to happen real soon.
Well, yeah, and then also when they do like get over that, what is it going to be like? How long is it going to hold a charge? Like, how long will that thing be able to on a single charge? Like, will you be able to play an hour?
I mean, you'd be able to just like wear a like a battery pack that looks like a bomb vest. Just like, just like
Future of gaming.
Yeah. But you could totally power it for a long time.
Yeah, and also I imagine I'm curious for when the stats come out, but I imagine that the time per play session of VR is going to be like significantly lower than the average games at the start.
Most games are not designed for long periods of
Yeah.
play. Like the Gallery is an adventure game. Each episode is like a couple hours, 3 hours long, and it's the only game I can think of that I've played where I was like, oh yeah, I'll happily just like throw on the headset, vanish into this world, absorb its story, kind of poke around its spaces and see what's what. And the rest of them, it's like, oh, like I love Job Simulator, but I'll probably like do a bunch of kitchen quests and call it a day and go back tomorrow and do a bunch of
Almost treat it like you do like an iOS game, like
Yeah.
not in a pejorative sense, but
Right,
in
like
a-
everything is very.
I don't think that's going to be the case, just because of the amount of setup it's going to take to get
Good point.
in there and get
Yeah.
up and running. But I do think that most games will probably be designed to be digestible in 1 to 2 hour sittings, with the exception of simulators. Simulators, like you could very easily like jump into a driving simulator and just go nuts like all day, like that would be a lot of fun, I think, and there's no reason why not.
And I think it's going to be stuff like you're going to download an app that is just like Venice, and the entire thing is like whether it's filmed in 360 degrees, or it's like a CG simulation of it. It's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna chill in Venice. I'm gonna explore. I'm gonna check out a museum.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go sit on a beach.
Yep.
And that's what I'm gonna do.
I have no doubt that the second this hits market, there's gonna be like live 3D cams.
Well,
of,
I mean,
like some place, some corner in Paris has a
I'm
3D
sure it'll be
camera,
like
or somewhere in San Francisco has a 3D camera
It
set
would
up a
not
live
surprise
feed.
me at all.
And,
You're seeing
I mean, that's stuff you can do with the Gear VR for $100 and your
you can watch
Samsung
boxing
phone.
matches the day after.
I watched some of the
debate.
the debate stuff in Gear VR. It's like, it was, kind of silly, but
Sure.
also neat. And
So is the debate.
yeah, I mean, yeah, the most one of the most compelling ideas behind with that kind of thing is, like, imagine being at a sporting event, like a football game. You're just on the sideline.
Yep.
Imagine they've got cameras every 20 yards.
Yeah.
And you can just hop between them to see.
Yeah.
And like wherever the action is, you're on the sidelines.
Yeah, or like at a show, like at I don't know, you don't have to go and hang out with all the hipster doofuses at Coachella, and you could just like go watch the shows there in 365 degrees.
You're like sitting front row at every concert.
365 degrees.
Yeah, man.
Where did the fifth degree come from?
365 degrees is just turning 5 degrees.
Yeah.
But
If Valve doesn't have this for the international, it's gonna make me very sad.
Yeah.
so to be able to watch Dota in, or you
Like-
watch the actual players playing, as opposed to
Yeah, or if it's like, okay, we set up a 360-degree camera in the booth, so you can like watch what PPD is doing, or it's in the middle of the crowd, so you can like look at the stage and look up at the screen and watch the game.
And what about just a being able to view a Dota game from within Dota?
I've wondered about that. Like, I don't know what that looks like. We were talking about that for League. We were talking about that for Dota, and it's like those games have such a very specific spectator angle
Yep.
that makes it useful. That if you're like walking around or sitting in your chair and you're having to like manipulate it, like it's obviously useful and cool, but I don't know like what that feels like. I'm definitely interested to try, but it's a very foreign idea.
Yeah. I like the why the hell can't I remember the dumb plane game name? Finish landing. Doesn't matter. But I like the idea of people releasing these little things that are like
Final Approach.
cool fake 3D cities that you can have a god mode over. Not even like interact with, but just sort of like poke around, like King's Landing or the Shire or something like that.
And be able to walk around the Enterprise D. Somebody already built that.
Totally.
I think they also built Voyager. Like,
Yeah.
A fully interactable. Like, imagine being able to walk around the Millennium Falcon.
Yes,
Yup.
exactly. Yeah, I played at CS last year, a thing
Someone
where you
made that
could
too.
sort of walk around. It was Tony Stark's Avengers Tower, whatever thing.
Oh, cool.
So like the lab, and you see like, oh, there's Captain America's shield, and there's Jarvis, and that kind of thing. And I'm like, that's gonna be so cool. Like, and that's the easiest advertisement for anything. Like a new Batman
I don't know if
movie,
it's easy.
not easy, but it is advertising in terms of like a new Batman movie's coming out. Here's a 3D
Go to the
Batcave
Batcave,
you can
yeah.
walk
Right.
around.
I mean,
Wayne
well,
Manor.
like, what about exclusive stuff, right? Like, who's going to be the first one to be like, okay, the Episode 8 trailer, Star Wars Episode 8, first trailer ever is VR only.
yeah.
I mean, they'd be crazy to do that within the next, say, 10
Of course.
years.
Yeah.
But it's
It'll
somebody
happen.
will do it, and it's going to be interesting
Well-
to see how and why they do it.
I don't know if anyone's going to make a trailer for a 2D movie in 3D.
Yeah.
So I think they'll have to make the entire movie 3D. for
Or
that to
it
work.
would be
Man, that's awesome.
Or it would
It's
be a
cool idea.
completely separate thing that is an ad. So like if it would have been for episode 7, like a minute-long scene where Rey is just like sitting by her
Eating her
broken
lunch.
machines, eating her lunch as like one of the suns is setting in the background, and you could sort of just like view that scene from any angle for a minute.
Well, I mean, you can't. Well, you can kind of do it from any angle. The thing is, like, the cameras will see each other if they're there
Not if it's a
simultaneously.
360-degree camera.
If you've got multiple ones,
Digital editing.
right. You'd
Get
have to
rid of 'em.
You'd have to remove them, or you'd have to just do multiple takes.
Yeah.
And, yeah. But
Keep eating your lunch. I saw an inconsistency the way she ate her space sandwich.
She was holding the spice spoon in right hand before now in left.
why are these guys Russian?
Why are they ever, Dan? Why are they ever?
Either people like Frank.
That's all we've got this week. We talked about VR the whole time. We're going to have some really cool stuff. I don't want to spoil what's coming next, but Marty and I have a cool thing in the works for tomorrow. You're going to see it in the next couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Have you forgotten? Don't forget. Play the game.
I'm going to.
It's
I'm
gonna-
already doing it.
We're actually going to wrap up so Marty can go play a game.
Before we do that, we should at least mention that The Witness is out this week.
Yes.
this week,
Yes,
so-
we want to have Chloe on. Chloe's out of the office this week. We're going to try to have Chloe on next week to talk about her 10 out of 10 Witness review. TBD if we're going to have spoilers in that conversation yet. A lot of us are still playing it, not quite as far as she is. But
Yeah.
there's a lot to dissect. A lot of us here really like The Witness. Have you started?
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. Chloe was on Podcast Beyond, our PlayStation podcast, and we pretty much talked about The Witness for like the first 15 minutes. It's very non-spoilery, but she sort of goes in depth. If you're sort of on the fence or really don't know what this game is, we did a good job of that. And then you can stop watching because then we start talking about like Ninja Turtles or Dragon Ball Z or some trash like that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Beyond. What a show. Yeah, so we're going to have Chloe on soon to talk more about The Witness.
Yeah. Also, the
what
fact
else
that
is happening?
that game just gets everyone's still freaking out about that game.
It's
Everyone thought
really
that game's
good.
over after like 100 hours, and it's
I
not.
like it. There's some Reddit stuff this morning or some Justin Davis stuff. I can never tell the difference. Where
I
it's
can't tell
like,
the difference between Justin Davis and Reddit either.
Where there's like 200 puzzles that nobody's found yet.
Yeah.
What? What is this game? It's so cool. Can't wait. I'm going to go play some on my desk right now.
Piss jars.
Yep. I'm Mitchy D on Twitter. Marty is McBiggity2G2Ts. Dan is at Dan Stapleton. What's everyone working on? What do you want to promote? You're working on your XCOM review.
Yep.
Coming next
Monday.
Games Out Friday, reviews Monday. Look forward to that from Dan. Pointing at Marty.
By the time this goes up, possibly we'll have a Gravity Rush remastered review. That's for PlayStation, though. That doesn't count. And yeah, listen to Unlocked that Mitch and I are on. Listen to Beyond that I'm on.
Cool Xbox shows.
And
cool
tune in.
PlayStation
We sent a couple people this weekend to PAX South.
Yeah.
It's not a very big show, but we're gonna have some
cool stuff there.
some video stuff, some photo galleries. So keep an eye on that. And if you're at PAX South, try to find a Destin, a Sean Finnegan, or an Alana.
Give them a hug or a high five.
Or don't.
Or ask permission.
But don't give them any diseases.
Correct. Look up my hands-on with 12 Vive games. I played 12 Vive games in a day and wrote 12 previews in one article. So
that was real impressive.
Please go check that out.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
It hurt my body to do that. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. For Marty Sleva, Dan Stapleton, I'm Mitch Dyer.
That's me.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mitch.